I'm with Channel 4's Padres star Jane Mitchell. Jane, you just got a brand new book here, One-on-One, Hall of Famers, Fan Favorites, and Rising Stars. And you're in your second run of the book, so it's obviously very successful.
Well, it's very organic, just trying to get out there to Padres fans, Chargers fans. Just got back from Boston, so reaching out to Red Sox Nation for people who love a lot of the people who've come through San Diego who have a Boston connection, including Adrian Gonzalez and Dave Roberts. But everyone in the book, or everyone I've interviewed for Channel 4 San Diego's The One-on-One show, I do have in the book, but I focus on 40 people. So even Quentin Jammer and his wife Alicia, everybody that we've done over the years is in there one way or the other. It's been a lot of fun, and I just hope more and more fans get it, because it's not just about what the TV show, but it's also learning the backstories of interviewing these guys and at their homes, and the emotional side, the fun stuff, and all good stuff though. No skeletons in closets.
What's the most interesting thing you ever learned about an athlete that you didn't know prior going into an interview?
Wow, that's a great question. I think for me, sometimes it's the vulnerability. And it might be because of an experience they had as a child that, like Mark Kotze, I always remember that when he talked about his father, who was a Los Angeles police officer, and he would come home every morning at 2 or 3 in the morning and kiss Mark on the cheek or the forehead to let him know he was home. And, it's one of those things where you never would have known that had you not listened and asked about the defining moments. And so that is what not only made him sensitive, but also that he's a guy who cares. And when you see something like that, a vulnerability exposed in a real positive and honest way, you appreciate the athlete even more. And I think you get to know them as people and maybe why they've worked so hard to achieve their dream. That's just one little example.
Well, you're somebody that cares too. You've done a lot of foundation work here in San Diego for various causes. A portion of your book's going to go to a cause that we both care deeply about, and that's alateral sclerosis, or Lou Gehrig's disease, and which your father passed away from.
Yeah, my dad had Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and that was, almost 18 years ago. And I've been involved with the local chapter of the ALS Association for 10 years or so now, and I wanted a portion of the proceeds to go back to something that I care about. And I've learned a lot from athletes that they all give back. And I thought, it only makes sense for, if I'm telling their story and these guys who do good things, I wanted to do the same for something I care about. And, I think we all can give back in our own ways. So that's one little way. And also just opening people's eyes to the disease and some of the things, that we've both experienced, as well as the other great things that these athletes are working on. So, yeah, it's a multifaceted effort between the TV show, the book, my efforts beyond just the interviews.
We're both here tonight helping with raising funds for the San Francisco Academy with the Jamming Under the Stars. Before Quentin Jammer and Alicia Jammer got involved with this, have you been a member of the San Diego community media? Did you hear foster children mentioned much?
Not a lot. I was in news before I was in covering sports, so I didn't know a lot about it. I had heard about the San Pasquale Academy several years ago, but not a lot. So I think it does help when you have someone high profile who doesn't strut, here, I'm out here doing this, but thankfully because of what we're able to do, you can share that story. You can get it out there. And while they're very humble, and they truly are humble, I mean, as they said, we don't like to just write a check. We want to be involved, which is very admirable. And when you hear things like that, and that word gets out, then people know more about foster kids and their efforts at San Pasquale Academy. And they're very protective, understandably, of some of these kids for their safety. But even when I did my one-on-one on Quentin and Alicia, we still wanted an opportunity to talk to someone who had benefited. And we did get a young man named Josh, I remember, and he talked about how Quentin's personal interaction with him really made a difference. And it's not just those kids at San Pasquale. I think what this does is help open our eyes to foster kids and the foster programs and the needs and even adoption. I mean, it just makes us stop and think, what is needed out there and how we can help.
I think another great thing it does is it changes the perception of the foster child. I think for some reason when a kid is in foster child, they think that perhaps it's their fault. And it's not their fault. It's a
Right.
victim of their circumstances. And, you know, we're only so lucky to, you know, be born to where we're born and to walk in the shoes that we walk.
Right.
And some people need a little extra hand in life, and it's great to see these kids get this at hand.
Absolutely, and I've experienced that, excuse me, just from talking to some of these kids. And, you know, they've had challenges. Well, you know, Quentin had challenges. A lot of people have those challenges. But when you can get someone like Quentin to sit down and talk with them, and they realize, okay, I'm not alone to start with. Yes, I can come through this. And people care enough to help me because I want to succeed. And, you know, a lot of kids, from my experience, both in news and in different charity work, sometimes you're right. I mean, they don't know, is it my fault? What do I do? And I think when you have someone who, they're just looking for that encouragement. And role models, people who have experienced it, and if they haven't experienced it, care enough to help them work through their challenges.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for all the stories you've shared with us, the impact you've made in the San Diego community because of that, and the lives you've touched. And this book here is continuing to touch lives and to, you know, share your journey. You know, you started simple and built yourself into as part of the American dream.
It really is, and I thank my parents who both were very supportive and helping me develop my love for writing and talking and storytelling. And, you know, if anyone's interested in the book or learning more about me or what I'm doing, JaneMitchell1on1.com. It's very simple. I'm still at Channel 4 San Diego and love it, but I'm trying to branch out and create some opportunities for some sharing the good sports story. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. And everyone watching, it's very cool what you're doing.
All right. Once again, Jane Mitchell. Thank you, Jane.